Well, you can flip the slide.
You need to click this eye to change the camera.
Well,
Okay.
I guess
And
most
this
of you people know me. I've been
turn off
familiar
that,
with Base in
so
town
it's
for quite a few years.
Okay.
I started using OS2 in 1996. I found an abandoned box in the store. It was the last one standing. It was teared up, and I thought, take it home. Better off the standard Windows 3.1 stuff and crashing and blue screen of that. So I thought, let's take it home and try it out. Coincidentally, Menzies, the world's last surviving OS2 company at the time, everything else fell over, and Menzies was left already at the time. So I thought, nice to get it. Well, I worked there for 13 years. I thought it was time to move on to new ventures in life. So I left the company in 2014. As you may have heard last year, Menzies ended up in pretty bad financial weather. You can see all of that in the Warpstock 2014 video that of the presentation from Menzo. I've always had a close relationship with the community. I've always been in close touch with a lot of people, knowing that what David Barnes said about OS2, the IBM marketing guy, is that OS2 basically survives because of people that are so crazy like us to travel halfway around the globe and support the platform in all types of cases. When it Menzies, I also really stuck out my neck. I think I single-handedly organized 3 or 4 Warpstocks events on my own and organized everything surrounding that. Those have been quite successful. At Menzies, I worked on just about everything regarding the whole Beacon Station OS. I provided testing, guided developers such as David and Steve. I wrote documentation, provided support, contacted the press, did legal work, part of the licensing agreements in place for device drivers I organized, and of course I did a whole bunch of things to engage the community. Next slide, please. The voice was originally founded in Canada. At least it was, well, the weird thing about voice is that it has never been an official legal entity, and it was basically, the way I understand it, about how it was formed in Canada. It had bylaws, but it never had an official legal status. So basically, for the Canadian IRS, it has always been a private person with a bank account with money on it, and that was a bit of a shady situation. As you all know, it published a quite famous voice newsletter. It even had a German edition with a readership of about, at the time, 1,500 people a month reading it. It also runs the Voice News mailing list service, and over its years it has provided sponsorship for several open source projects, such as Firefox. We've also been looking at keeping certain popular OS2 applications alive. One of the reasons that some people never wanted to migrate off of OS2 Recon Station is because of PMMail, an old mail program which still survives today. We purchased the sources from BMT Micro at the time, and ever since then maintenance has been ongoing. One of the people working on that is Alex Taylor as well. And we've actually been selling that as a part of our when a member of Voice buys 2 subscription, you're entitled for life for free updates. As you might have noticed in the OS2 community, is that you will always see the same faces pop up over the years, providing support to the community. It's not just me. John Edwards there in the back. Are you still on the Warpstock board, or are you still on the board, John, of Warpstock?
I'm the president.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm a bit jet lagged still. I'm still running in a completely different time zone. But there, yeah, John. Neil is also, I'll get to that later, is on the board with OS2 Voice, and he's in Warpstock, Inc. Are you also, is the Bay Warp user group, is that also?
Yeah.
Oh, you're also organized with CC. See, everywhere is still the same faces. Sadly, the OS2 board had declined to 3 members, and we're basically on the verge of drying up. I'd like to extend my thanks to you, John, for wanting to stick around in Voice that long, just to keep it going, because you actually thought of moving on to different fields. Could you go to the next slide, please? In July 2014, we decided that it was time to change, and we actually went to a Dutch public notary and had official bylaws written, and it's now registered with the Room of Trade and Commerce, because the tax situation with OS2 Voice was kind of a concern. At the time, it had about $20,000 in the bank, sitting there on a private bank account, playing a non-profit organization. But for IRS, probably the Canadian IRS would have said to the former treasurer, like, oh, so you've got $20,000 here, and you've got money coming in and money going out. Who are you? So they could probably text him. So we turned it into an official Dutch non-profit organization, and that solved the tax position. We've also now got a full board in place of 7 members, Neil being part of that, and David as awareness. One of the things that we did, and some people wonder, is that really ethical? People that now become a member to Voice basically do a donation, but what we've done in the new bylaws is that we have stopped asking members permission for everything. The reason we did that is that because the track of going from a proposal to a final voting decision was just a bureaucratic paper mill. Everything had to be discussed in the board, then it had to be put to the vote of the members, and by the time something was done, we were 3 months further. Knowing that it's all volunteer work, and looking at my experience with Warpstock, here's a simple question. How many people here would next year like to volunteer to organize Warpstock? So, and I always bounce that ball back saying, very few people, a lot of people would like to see stuff happen. They want to be involved with it, they want to be a part of it, but there's always a very small percentage of people that really want to organize something and get it done. So that was the reason that we switched to a board. We've got 7 people involved all throughout the community, and we've already made a couple of steps, like last year, the Voice Foundation organized Warpstock Europe 2015. We do have a considerable financial reserve. I think it's not, again, weird to disclose. We've got about $20,000 in the bank that we built up. That was done over a long period, and there have been extensive discussions. It was money that was owned by the members of the former Voice Canadian Foundation. But we did put this to the vote to the members and really said, we shouldn't just make Voice an exclusive organization for Voice members. The community is too small to say that benefits that we do for Voice should purely just only benefit the Voice members. The community is now so small that we're better off supporting the community and providing support for the community. One of the things that also states in our bylaws is that we are looking for projects that people want to have developed, and we will fund projects if people want to develop software drivers on the requirement that it's available that the source code is under a public source code license, such as the GNU license. Could you go to the next slide, please? These are now the new board members. It's a truly international audience with mixed, with basically both sides of the Atlantic represented. me, there's Neil from California, there's David, now living in Michigan, well, also in the US. Then there's Keith Merrington from the Netherlands, and we've got the remaining board member, Gerrit Schoenmaker, who was also a ex-colleague of mine working at Menzies, also a long-time experience. Bjorn Rietijk, and then there, who's a Dutch OS2 user. And then there's Stuart Updike from the US, who's got a pretty cross-Atlantic representation. Could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So, yeah, we can put up a foundation, but then the question is, okay, you're putting new life into it, so what are you going to do with it? I want to revamp the IRC speakups, although I'm actually wanting to see if we could go to a more modern means, such as a VoIP client. But we currently do not have a piece of software that we could use. I've experienced myself that it's usually nicer to be in a conversation where you can have voice dialogue instead of typing. So that's one of the more modern ways that we want to look at providing speakups. What used to happen with speakups is that we would invite a OS2 developer or somebody that does something for OS2, and then people would ask questions to them, and we would organize it at such a time that people all from around the world would announce that in advance. Then we would have speakups where 20 or 30 people would show up in a cramped IRC channel, and the chat would run for 2 hours. So we want to see if we can organize that. Again, well, some people have seen maybe a bit of the silence in terms of the NetLabs organization not doing much for OS2. That's sometimes the impression that's given. Although Adrian from NetLabs is not using OS himself anymore, he still contributes to the platform, he still provides infrastructure, and we're also working on a proposal for him to provide a new backup server. Also, the NetLabs server still hosts a treasure room of source code, and that's also being actively maintained by BitwiseWorks, and it's also the key RPM server for the OS2 community where most of the core updates are coming from. There's also a project that's going to occur possibly finally next year, Adrian has time, and that's to update the project page, because there are a lot of pages currently on NetLabs that are just blank. So we just want to do something that those pages are more informative to what the projects are. Could you go to the next slide, please? As I said, there are the same people pop up everywhere again. Neil is working with our former treasurer, Gordon, to update the website. It hasn't had a lot of updates. One downside of it is that the Voices website, when it was developed, is probably now it's almost 18 years old, most of it. And it's all static HTML. So we're actually looking at possibly going to a CMS system. The other thing that we want to do is we want to start republishing articles, and we've already sent out a message on the German OS2 org forum asking people if they want to write articles. One of the primary reasons that the Voice newsletter that was so successful diminished largely was because there was a cycle in the newsletter that basically to a large degree killed it. There were fewer people that wanted to write articles, but what really killed it in the end was that we were waiting for enough written articles to show up, and that would sometimes take 3 or 4 months. And then the people that have already written articles were going like, hey, I sent in my last article, it's now 3 months since you have it, you haven't published my newsletter. So we basically shot our own editorial staff by doing that. So, as you've seen, for example, with Gregory Shaw, we want to do the same. We just want, if there's a new article, we want to publish it and no longer wait as if we're publishing a complete digital magazine with a whole bunch of articles. That way, hoping to keep the flow going. But as always, it's all volunteer work, so stuff is kind of slow as it has to happen when you feel like you want to do it, you want to sit down and have time for it. So, but the first updates have been done to the website, our new bylaws are online, and we're working on more information that to be put up there. One of the things that Voice has set up and that it's actively still running is the Voice news system, which is actually an idea that I had many years ago, where news is distributed throughout the community. If somebody sends an email to the Voice news servers, it automatically gets posted in the announced newsroom on Usenet, gets copied to the OS2.org website, it goes to the Voice mailing list, and it goes to the Baywarp user group, and it's imported onto OS2.org. If you notice how the OS2 community works, they are literally a whole bunch of isolated islands, and they're not communicating very well. In fact, it's that bad at the time when I was doing Warpstock. I was usually the guy in Europe that was making the phone calls between the German user groups and asking, who's going to do Warpstock? Anybody volunteering? I had the discussions several occasions. So that's why we put up a new system. People can still visit the websites that they want, but it gets distributed now over all sources. Could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. The Warpstock, the Voice organization already did Warpstock 2015. We had about 30 attendants. It was announced later than planned. We ran into a lot of trouble with the AO hostile bureaucratic booking office that didn't want to supply a price quote in time. It took them 6 weeks and 10 phone calls and 5 emails to get something in my direction. And if you ever want to save your IT sanity, I recommend that you don't start working on Typo 3. Once you get used to it, I can assure you, you will understand it. But before you get there, it's just like finding enlightenment in life. You'll never find it. It's not. We are going to switch over to a new CMS system. We tried to upload a presentation to the Typo 3 website, and the first time I tried to do it with my partner, we were busy for 9 hours trying to figure out how the hell it all worked and getting certain things updated in Typo 3. So we want to get a new CMS system in place so that we can put news and items much quicker online for next year's Warpstock.
I could have mentioned that.
Content management system. It's something like WordPress or Joomla. And those are basically, most of those systems basically have what you see, what you get editor in it, and you can write the HTML code, insert pictures. You don't have to write the HTML code yourself.
Yeah.
And
if I could mention, since you have someone already writing your HTML code, had you sent those to Gordon and I, it would be up. So, for now we have a static HTML site, and it's rather easy to modify. So.
Yeah, but as I said, what I really want to do is, you guys are there now, but what I've learned over the last couple of years with also the German user groups, most German user groups have dried up because people have limited time. And what I really want to do is when somebody writes an article for Voice, I want that person that we create an account, he goes in, he edits the article, puts in the pictures, let somebody else review the English, and boom, publish it. You just need to keep the lines of communication short and edit it as well.
But they have a draft, and they have to do all that. Or they can email a draft to us. It's actually easier to do static HTML today than to type that into Typo 3. Oh my God.
No. Well,
into Typo 3.
Yeah, we've got Typo 3 right now.
Well, yeah,
so
that's true.
Today, if you have material, send it to us to put on the website. You have Warpstock 2015, you should send us a little announcement.
I already sent it out, the announcement.
Well, copy Gordon.
And it has, by the way, basically Lewis is to blame that Warpstock's date for 2016 was already set.
Yes.
Because when he was going to come over to Warpstock Europe last year, and 24 hours before the conference got started, I got an SMS message that he forgot to extend his passport. So So he rebooked his airline ticket, and that basically set the date already for
I
Warpstock.
checked my passport the morning I was packing to leave for there.
Wow.
Well, you know, it's,
Just in time
well,
passport checking
it
system.
needs to be valid to travel to that part of Europe. It needs to be valid at least 3 weeks, 3
3
months.
months or 6
3
months.
months after the return date. Mine would have been valid for another week after the return date. And I thought, I better check this. And I luckily went to the State Department website and I looked it up. And I thought, well, I'm glad I checked it out before I got in the car and drove to the airport.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let me on the plane or I'd be detained in Germany. And detained in Germany is not something I really want to do.
Bad memories.
They probably wouldn't let me get it 6 months. But it depends upon the State Department's in that region 3 months. But other places up to 6 months.
There's a simple solution. You keep a count, and when you get a document that expires,
You,
you put the expiry.
I should have
30-year
added it to my
calendar.
count.
I keep updating it every day.
Yeah, but
Driver's license,
with the
car
diff-
registration.
But with the difference that most people within the US, most people I know, either do not have a passport or they do not use it frequently enough to renew it. And in the Netherlands, a passport is now valid for 10 years. So if you put it on the shelf for 3 years and you hang a new calendar up each year, you're bound to forget it somewhere.
No, you have a permanent calendar.
For 10 years-
All the
for
more
10
that
years
it's
in
valid
that.
for 10 years.
For 10 years, okay. And anyway, Warpstock Europe will happen. It will be on the 21st and the 22nd of May in Cologne, Europe. Last year I was absolutely more than floored and extremely happy. I had announced Warpstock on a German forum, and for the first time in probably 6 or 7 years that I did that, somebody showed up and said, I'd like to do the video presentation for you. Okay, thank you. Well, actually, somebody turned up that took about 50,000 euros worth of equipment, professional editing equipment, and the room was stacked. I told you saw that day with the whole setup in the corner there. And next year we will also be having a video stream. We already committed to it. And I'm sorry that the current videos of Warpstock 2015 from June have not yet been uploaded, but for some oddball reason I've been looking at that with Lewis, the links for confirming my YouTube account to upload the content, that email continues not to arrive in my mailbox. It keeps being filtered out somewhere. So that's the only, we've got the videos edited, they've been downscaled and they're ready for upload to the Warpstock Europe YouTube account. So I hope to be doing that when I get back and catch up on some sleep.
Can you answer a question about Warsaw, Europe? How does one travel? Is it easy to get to either of those cities? Because some of the smaller German cities are hard to fly to. If they go someplace else.
Well, Cologne is easy. Go to Frankfurt and take a train.
Take the train.
Well, all places that we organize Warpstock Europe usually have an airport within reach, and just like most Western European countries, we've got an excellent rail and bus system. So it from most German, just like Frankfurt and also Cologne, have a good airport, and they've got a direct airport train station to the city center, and from there on you can take the tram or subway to get to your final destination. And the Cologne youth hostel is a 500-meter walk from the subway. And most international flights fly into Frankfurt, and from there there's a train maybe every 15 minutes or 20 minutes towards Cologne.
And you take the train right from there.
Yeah, okay, because Frankfurt's easy from Boston.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we're trying to do with Warpstock to keep stuff on the move. There's now, and as I said, I'm also open to suggestions for people that are looking for funding for a piece of open source software. We do not intend to burn the money, but the reason I want to spend the money and not keep it on the bank account is because that's how most German user groups have ended up. They didn't spend the money. They had it on their bank account. They decided to dissolve the organization, and eventually they donated all of that money to non-OS2 charities. That's still a good thing, but that's not what originally the money was intended for. So, Warpstock Europe will at least not drain our resources. The whole event will basically be organized for a price tag of 600 euros. So we can still last. So if there's anybody that wants an open source project, please send an email to president@os2voice.org. Next slide, please. As I said, are there any questions or suggestions at what you would like Voice to do? Or are there any questions remaining? Yes.
So I have an observation about the newsletters. So perhaps this is idiosyncratic to myself, or maybe other people face the same thing. I have a lot of stuff coming in. There's some things I really want to do. I want to read to keep my knowledge current. So things like the Voice newsletter, I value. I used to subscribe to all the magazines because the way I organize the knowledge acquisition is these things come in old days in the physical format. It's sitting there. My mind is such that at a certain point in the day, I've done all the things that require brilliance, and I just pick up the stack and I start reading. Okay, so, but the idea that, okay, there's an article that's been posted in a place, I have to go and get it, it just doesn't work in my workflow. I haven't got time to go around clicking things. So basically I'm talking about the push mechanism. You know, the magazines or the physical newsletters were a push mechanism. Okay, so there's sort of fallback now. You can get a message saying, okay, an article's been posted, this is the link, it's embedded in the message, and click here. That's not as good because I get hundreds of messages a day, mostly spam, but you know, I have to go through this stuff. Okay, it just goes to another file, I'll do that someday. It doesn't have the immediacy of a physical object which is there on my desk or in my reading file. So I'm concerned to say, okay, we're going to put these articles up, but how would one know about that? How easy is it to access and turn, you know, we're talking about minutes and seconds here. I've got a lot of things going on. I really can't go feeling around.
As I said, all the announcements that I make go via the news system. They're spread over several websites. And you can always, of course, subscribe free of charge to the Voice newsletter. You can make a separate folder in your mailbox that pops in where the messages come in. But yeah, more than that, I cannot think of how to facilitate.
Okay, so I used to send a check every year to the Voice. So
Yes.
am I in a database on a distribution list now for things?
Yes, in fact, you should have been getting emails from our Dutch treasurer, Keith Barrington, that has taken over the duties from Gordon Schneider.
From what address? I'll search right now and see whether I get it.
That should be treasurer@os2voice.org, the same address that it has been for years, so.
Well,
You know, Roderick, we were talking about that yesterday, and I don't remember getting voicemail in quite a while.
really?
Well, you must be in our archive since you're one of the board members.
I got one on
so
1012.
You got one on 1012?
Uh-huh.
You go see.
Anyway, are there any other questions? Because
I did notice this, and I don't know who to pass it out to, but if you go to the Voice page, you know, the home page, the Voice. Trying to get to the sponsorship page, you gotta go to the PM mail page, and that will take you then to the Arcanoa page. It's kind of mucky, there's no direct link.
I thought that there was
Sponsorship.
I thought that there was a direct sponsorship link that took you to a page that you can buy at Menzies and BMT and at Arcnoa.
I thought we adjusted that.
Oh, the article, part probably, yeah, but the Voice webpage.
Here's our
Voice.
webpage.
I'm sitting on the Voice.
The volunteer web editor just took your notes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Voice homepage, there's no direct link.
Are there any other questions?
Mine.
Okay, so, well, as I said, this is also a formal invitation for people to come to Germany if you're interested. I think already Chuck was interested in coming, so maybe other people.
Yeah, that's an excellent location.
What town is that
It's a really nice.
It's in Colombia.
Columbus.
And as said, it's extremely well reachable by rail from Frankfurt. And
Nice cathedral.
yes,
Yeah.
correct.
How grim are the quarters? Student hostel. Is it cold showers, meetings?
Well, you're asking whether the facilities are in the youth hostel?
I don't know, where will we stay?
I mean, it's not like here, but it's pretty nice.
Well, I can tell you that
It's a
youth
couple of
hostels,
our-
you know, it's a real pity that they don't exist in the US, because you can go to a youth hostel and get a two-person bedroom for €60 a night,
Yeah.
with your own bed and shower,
Okay.
and bed linen included, and you can get a buffet breakfast for €7.50. So, yeah, you know, and the conference room cost us a nickel and a dime for
And
€600.
since it's Germany, about 5 o'clock, they open the bar.
Yeah, they're nice here.
In the youth hostel.
And I've always suggested to Warpstock Europe, to Warpstock Inc. here, or Corporation, to look for a youth hostel, but the thing is they simply do more hostels, but they seem to be far and thin in the US, while in Europe you can find it. In the Netherlands, there's a hostel chain that has, I think, about 20 or 30 hostels, and there are in Germany, there's also a whole bunch of them spread out all over the country. So that's when we actually, with the Warpstock Europe, we've had the same issue where the amount of visitors was declining. So we were looking at not going to an expensive conference facility that would cost something like €10,000 for 50 people. So we started using hostels.
If you do, yeah, it should crash.
And that runs at an average cost of about €1,500.
Oh, yeah, I mean, if we had to reboot it later.
3 days,
Sure.
making it a whole lot more. Are there any other questions? Okay,
Yeah.
so thank you for your time and enjoy Warpstock, and I hope to see you next year.